the Photography Online podcast, in partnership with Kingjoy Tripods.
Coming up on this month's podcast, we discuss the case of the urbex photographer who locked himself in an abandoned jail cell and the pro who sets his gear and sometimes his clients on fire. Plus, we examine the first photographs from the world's largest digital camera. We look at a tripod that apparently can do it all, the concept camera bag solving a problem that nobody seems to have, and the first ever Leica branded 35mm film.
And now, please welcome your panellists. A man who, when asked to work out his depth of field, went to the DIY shop and bought a tape measure and a spade. It's Nick Hansen.
I've been digging up potatoes.
And a man who thought frame rate was how many photos could be put behind glass in an hour. It's James McCormick.
I've got to look after my Rembrandts.
And here to keep them both in check, a task which deserves a far higher salary, it's Ruth Taylor.
Hey everybody, welcome to our July podcast. I am Ruth, your host. In the studio this month, my very favourite James and my very favourite Nick. How was June for you guys? I've just got back from España, from Spain with Harry. So Nick and James, I don't think you were quite so far flung, were you, last month? What have you guys been up to?
Working myself into an early grave as ever, Ruth.
At least you've got your Rembrandt, James.
I'm probably enjoying the sunshine as well, whereas up here, not so much.
Yeah, Nick and I were just commenting. I'm just back from Spain, paler than when I left. James is there with a glowing tan in the south of England.
Looking gorgeous, I am.
Honestly. Nick, you've been busy with workshops up on Skye.
I have indeed, yes. Mixed weather. June, just normal June weather. It's good for it can be good for photography.
This is true. Normally, kind of summertime, we kind of almost, we do our best with what we've got, but we kind of think, summer, it's not going to work so well on Skye. This summer on Skye, high winds, freezing temperatures, driving rain. Did we even have snow at some point at the beginning? I think we might have had something.
I had hailstones, for sure. Yeah, at the start of June, I was out doing a guided walk and we had hailstones.
Yeah, there you go. The Highlands of Skye, good for any time of year for the landscape photographers. So Harry and I, like I said, we were over in Spain, North Coast as usual, cool, grey and raining for the first part, or at least we missed that part of the heat wave that they're getting over there just now, and then proper hot down in the centre, and then it seemed to heat back up again when we went north, but still haven't managed to get a tan out of it, so you never know, one of these days. James, we were just talking cheers before we hit the record button, and I gave you a compliment about your mismatched and fashionable selection of chairs that you've got going on behind you. I see a twirly leather swivel chair from 1852
Somebody has to keep the Good Ship Photography Online podcast afloat, so that's my captain's chair.
Okay, very good. See what you did there? You want to be the anchor, James? The anchor.
You never know, Ruth.
See what I did there?
Never know.
Is that anchor you said there?
Yes, he missed that one. Anyway, welcome to the podcast, everyone. It's good to have you back. We're going to launch into the news stories for this month, starting off with story number one that's been doing the rounds in the UK, at least. Maybe a couple of weeks dated now. I'm not sure if there's any update on it, in fact. But Nick, why don't you give us a bit of an overview of what has happened?
Yeah, well, I think we can all agree that if you're visiting a museum, that you shouldn't really touch the items which are on display. I think it's safe to say that. Well, at the museum Palazzo Maffei, I think that's how you pronounce it properly.
Ooh, nice.
Which is in Verona in Italy. A couple who were photographing each other pretending to sit on the chair, a chair called the Van Gogh chair, which is covered in, must be hundreds of Swarovski crystals. They managed to break it when the gentleman couldn't hold a squat position for long enough whilst hovering above the chair. So they're basically photographing each other. There's a video on this, I saw on the BBC website, there's a video on it as well. And they're photographing each other pretending to sit on the chair. I mean, they shouldn't be doing that in the first place, but the gentleman couldn't hold his squat position for long enough and ended up sitting on the chair, which is actually not very solidly built, and broke it. So they were actually in the room where the chair was on display, and they waited for the security guard to leave the room before they started taking the photographs. Obviously, they wouldn't be allowed to do that if there was anyone else in the room. And as you probably guess, anyway, there was also a note on the chair warning people not to even touch it. And then afterwards, when this time, you could see them in the video quickly fleeing the scene of the crime.
But the chair looks better afterwards, Nick. It's worth having a look if you haven't seen it, because I think the chair looks better, slightly squished by a slightly rotund tourist than it did beforehand.
Was it made of toilet roll tubes or something? It turns out.
Well, I don't know. But beforehand it was just a sort of Diamante piece of chintz, really, the sort of thing that you would probably quite like, Ruth. But afterwards, it's actually got a, I don't know. I quite like the little buckled nature.
That crookedness to it. So, of course, the police have been notified, but they haven't been able to identify this couple who committed the crime.
Do you think they'll do it by bum prints in the end? Does your bum have a print like a fingerprint does? That might be the only way to identify who it was.
Well, I guess that means that the security cameras in the museum are not that good. They weren't able to make out the people's faces. Since then, the chair has been restored and returned to the gallery. And the reason why they've actually released the security footage is that hopefully it will highlight the need not, to treat the art with respect and not touch it, not do these foolish things.
So next time I go to the National Gallery, Nick, I should leave my pens and pencils at home and not sort of touch up.
And make sure you've done your leg workouts, James, because
make sure I've done my squats. I
wonder how many other people did exactly the same thing, but they had a little bit more leg strength, and this guy just happened to be the one who stumbled backwards.
Well, as you well know, Ruth, when in the field, if I get down to take a picture at a low angle, I definitely need help back up.
I know. You'd have been caught. Absolutely would have been caught. You wouldn't have been able to get back up out of it. But obviously, the reason this is in the photography news story is it's harking back to the same thing that we do talk about quite a lot, which is the need to take pictures everywhere you are. And obviously, there is a photograph somewhere probably of him in the cloudosphere or whatever it is, if I can get access to that. But yeah, we've kind of tried to veer away a little bit from selfie-related stories this month, but that one kind of snuck its way in there. They just don't stop coming, basically.
It's amusing, isn't it?
It is quite. Yeah. It's quite amusing, and the fact they managed to actually fix it so quickly, it obviously wasn't a very priceless work of art. So anyway, it's quite interesting. You can have a wee look at the video, amuse yourself for a few seconds in the show notes. Check that out. Second story is not the kind of thing we would normally include in a news story, but this thing kind of appealed to me because I thought James has got a big background in doing commercial photography with kind of models, walking, all this kind of stuff. And this is kind of one of these. Almost, it's not quite an opinion piece, but it was. In fact, explain it to us, James. What is the story we've got? The second one.
Well, being a huge fan of TikTok, no idea what that is. Being an even bigger fan of Instagram, barely know what that is. But actually, the story's about how to take candid pictures of, I presume, your friends or whoever it is you want to post stories about, and how to get that natural look, really. And yeah, I did used to work, or still do work quite a lot, in the commercial world using models. But what we used to use a lot of are sort of semi-professional models or real people, because actually you get more candid and more realistic looking pictures if you direct them correctly than you do if you use an actual full-time professional model. Because I'm doing sort of more lifestyle type shots rather than high fashion type shots, which is where you would want to typically use real pro models. So if you can get a good relaxed picture, it will tell the story a lot easier, and the faster you get there, the better in the commercial world. Now, what this story is telling you to do is just basically to get people to walk along and look in all sorts of different directions and laugh and giggle with each other. And while they're doing that, you take your pictures, and probably quite a lot of them, and pick one out where everyone's looking natural. And it does actually work. It is true. So if you want that perfect candid shot, get people to touch. So in the sort of 2 or 3 examples, there's guys banging shoulders together, or there's girls sort of holding hands, or shoulders, arms around shoulders, that kind of thing. So physical touch is a good way to get people to express themselves. And the other real key thing is not to get them to talk. Okay, so but to get people to laugh. So what I used to do is get people to have a key word. And when I hear that key word, it could be absolutely anything. I mean, the classic one, of course, would be cheese, or, whatever. But actually you would give them another keyword, and you'd say, walk towards the camera, and one of you say that keyword. And at that point, if you've injected enough humour into the situation, they will all smile and look in different directions. And the point being where you want your background and the relationship between your subjects and the background. And don't look at each other, or in some cases do look at each other and then look away, all of those little things. So it is actually a method that works, and it is certainly a lot better than those blue steely looks that you get on a lot of semi-selfie or so-called candid pictures. The sort of look Marcus does every time we take a group picture and we're away on one of the trips and we do a group picture at the end of the trip. And Marcus always...
I think you all do that, James.
No.
Yeah.
Mine are all entirely... These cheekbones need no stealing.
Oh, I could prove pictures to the... I mean, the story, obviously, it's not just an opinion piece, like I said. It's reporting a TikTok trend,
Yes.
which is basically normal people. So you're obviously talking... You used to work professionally. You work
Yes.
with models, lifestyle. This is a trend that has gone viral on TikTok amongst the normal man who now... There seems to be there's such an awareness now amongst normal people that you're going to be on camera a lot, and so people are learning these things for themselves. Whereas this would be, I guess, before the domain of people who were involved in modelling or photographers.
You still use it to this day. I mean, the piece we did in Cuba, photographing real. People in the streets of Havana, we were using these similar techniques to do it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's fascinating that this has come from just normal people and trying to figure out how they can look better in pictures, because we are now just so surrounded by people constantly pointing phones at us and cameras at us, and it's leapt the boundary of what was before kind of the domain of pros and stuff, and everyone's so aware of it now. So if you see people,
the actual and I think the actual piece. I mean, it's not really. It's just, as you said, it's bringing it to people that don't necessarily work professionally, but most people that have been doing this kind of taking pictures of their family and friends have been doing it anyway. It's an opinion piece on one of the photography websites, and probably semi-pushed out by TikTok themselves, and it's a kind of a very natural thing. And the one thing I particularly like, it's on the Petapixel website, this particular sort of review of this trend that's gone viral.
You love that term, don't you, James?
Yes, exactly. It's just one user writes, "It's changed the world for me." It's all of that kind of... No, it's just someone having their picture taken in a natural way. I don't think the world's really going to change, but it is something to certainly bear in mind. If you've got a bunch of kids together and you want to take the picture and you want them to stop looking at the cameras and have a slightly more candid picture in an uncandid scenario, using that technique, keeping people moving, having them touch each other, having keywords to say where they all look away, it will certainly help with your photography. There's no question.
Well, fair enough. Tips to keep in our back pocket. Nick, I love this next story. Tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, have you heard of urbex photography, which is short for urban exploration?
I've heard urban exploration for sure, but not urbex, which sounds cool as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the shortened version. I hadn't heard of it myself until I read this article. It can be described as the exploration of man-made structures, usually in the form of abandoned buildings. So right up your street, Ruth, I guess, abandonment and dereliction.
Absolutely up my alleyway, yeah.
So a 19-year-old photographer, Cody M. Malone, managed to get himself locked inside a jail cell whilst exploring and photographing the abandoned downstate correction facility in Fishkill, New York City. So yeah, he's a urbex photographer. He was photographing this abandoned jail, correctional facility, and managed to get himself locked in one of the jail cells.
Genius.
That's classic.
And the New York State Police actually responded to a report of a trespass at the prison, which was made by Mr. Malone himself. So he obviously got stuck in the jail cell and he had to call for help, and he called the police. And after being rescued from his prison cell, he probably got put into another one. And he was charged with criminal trespass in the third degree. So obviously this story for me opens up a lot of questions regarding the legalities of this type of photography, in the terms of trespass and breaking and entering buildings. I mean, only a couple of months ago, there's another photographer called Isaac Wright. He was arrested after police used photos which he was actually displaying in an exhibition, which actually showed evidence of him that he climbed to the top of the Empire State Building. So he was taking photographs of himself climbing up the Empire State Building, then some may say stupidly put them in an exhibition. Police saw this and they were able to prosecute him. So obviously, when we do our trip to the Isles of Lewis and Harris, we photograph some of the abandoned cottages there.
There is a Right to Roam Act in Scotland, however, so it's slightly different, and we don't go in them as a general rule. Well,
that's exactly what I was going to say. So obviously going in them, you're putting yourself and other people potentially in danger, because you don't know what the state of these buildings are, like on the inside. I mean, these old buildings have been left abandoned for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, so they're going to be damp on the inside, and obviously once timber structures get damp, they just collapse.
I mean, there's an undeniable fascination, though, with abandoned, kind of mysterious buildings. People have been going into them from the day dot, I think. But I mean, the legalities around, I know in Scotland you mentioned right to roam, but that doesn't include actually accessing buildings. I don't know what's right, what it is around the rest of the world. But I mean, I don't know, it's a difficult one for me. There's such a pool to kind of exploring curiosity, going in through a window, seeing what is in there. I've seen stuff even in the last couple of weeks from people that I know who have done that exact same thing. And, you know, is there a line? Should there be a line? Or is it all just around what the actual laws are? Or do you just, you know, you think you're an artist, you want to get these photographs?
Yes, I mean, when we were in the US, we were photographing abandoned hotels, but from the outside, you know, because these hotels were covered in graffiti. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But we didn't go inside. And again, we were in the US, so we were maybe not aware of we were aware of, you know, trespass in the US, how bad it can be.
If it had been the UK and you'd thought, right, no one's going to maybe draw a gun on me, would you have wanted to go in? No? Is that just the difference in photography styles? Though some people would desperately want to be inside, others are happy with the outside.
Well, of course, I mean, there's always that curiosity, you know, what is inside? Is it dead bodies? Is it, you know, dead animals, whatever, you know. We will always be curious of what's inside there, and there's that temptation to go inside.
Yeah, James, you were in Namibia with Harry last month, and there's some very famous buildings that you guys go inside.
I'd completely forgotten. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the whole half the point of that trip, which my tiny little mind had forgotten. Yes, was about photographing abandoned buildings, but those buildings were in the main part of a tour that you could tour around. So it was like a sort of, not quite a living museum, but it was a museum, an abandoned mining town that had become a photographic attraction and a museum. So you were absolutely allowed to go in those buildings, indeed encouraged to go in and photograph them. But I think the wider point of going into abandoned buildings and taking pictures, clearly in 99.9% of cases, wherever you are in the world, it will be against the law of some description, be it trespass or endangerment or whatever. So one should not do that, and you definitely shouldn't do that, and we certainly shouldn't encourage people to do it. But by the same token, if people had never taken these sorts of pictures, a lot of this stuff, a lot of pictures would be lost to history, and that would be a real shame. So we've all seen pictures taken back in the day inside abandoned buildings or whatever, and a lot of photography does cross the line into what's the word?
Illegality.
That's the one. Thank you so much. You can be my lawyer, Ruth, next time I need one. It does cross the line, but without those pictures, the world would be a lesser place. So although on us as a team, and this is a podcast, we wouldn't ever encourage it, it would be a shame if nobody ever did it.
I suppose one of the keys is don't go into a jail cell and pull the door tight. He must have done that on purpose.
I smell a bit of a rat here crawling around in this particular...
Here comes the cynicism.
Well, he called the police on himself. He's certainly done his profile no harm whatsoever.
Well, fair enough. All right. Well, I don't know if his pictures are available anywhere, actually. I forgot to check. And again, maybe this is what he wanted. Who knows? The show notes for that story, you can have a look online yourself. This is an interesting story. We have been certainly guilty of damaging a few pieces of equipment purely unintentionally, unless they've been originally broken. But this story sets a whole new standard, James. What's this photographer been up to?
Well, he's been setting fire to things. Now, funny, because you sent me through this little link, Ruth, I actually have seen this chap on my various social media platforms that I follow. No, it randomly appears on my phone somehow. I've no idea how. But I have actually seen this chap do it, and his tag is JBS Studios official, but I believe we put all these things in the notes at the end anyway, don't we? So basically this chap specialises in sort of photographing sports people, and they're often sort of graduate sports people from the sort of collegiate system in America, and he sets fire to varying pieces of their equipment, and sometimes them themselves.
Or his own.
Yes, or his own in this case, but often it started with him photographing, a basketball player, and he'll set fire to the basketball and the basketball's bounced. And I've seen a lot of his work, actually, and it is well worth looking at. The thing really is there's a few technical issues in the piece that are incorrect, but, hey, that's not what's important about shutter speeds and flash and all of that kind of thing. But what I really, really admire about this guy, and it's not the style of his imagery, it's not that, it's a bit over the top, it's a bit too sort of, I'll probably upset someone from California if I say Californian. I don't know where he's based, by the way, if he's based in America somewhere, but it is over the the top. It's very sort of...
That's what he's going for. That's the whole coolness about it.
But it is what he's going for. That's fine. I'm just saying it's not my personal taste. It's just I don't know. It's glitzy and horrible. It's a bit like the equivalent of that chair that got broken. So in that museum. However, this guy is using real-world photographic techniques. So in this particular instance, he's putting some kind of, I presume, gel on the front, a flammable gel on the front of his camera, lights it on the front element. He's probably almost certainly got a filter on the front, lights it, flames go up for a split second, takes the shot during that, shooting through the frame towards, in this case, a tennis player. And he himself says that what he really, really likes the most is that he can get a feel by doing it in the real world, by things actually burning at that instant, at that moment, far better than anything you could do in Photoshop or anything that would be AI generated. And that's the reason I really, really admire this guy and his work. And it is clearly worth noting that he clearly knows what he's doing with pyrotechnics. So we do not.
Try it yourself.
So I'm thinking, I know our audience definitely shouldn't try it ourselves, but I don't know. I've got a bit of an idea for you, Nick.
Yeah.
And given your lack of top wear on your head, I think it would be fine.
He wants to keep his eyebrows, though, James. Careful.
Yeah, he wants to keep his eyebrows, but at the same time, we'd have to keep Ruth well out of the way because of all that product in her hair. So, but I think we might be able to come up with something. But he's worth checking out. And as I said, the key is he's producing really wild-looking images that they look like they've been photoshopped, right? But they're not. They're real. They are real.
Yeah, this is the problem. If you came across these on one of your various feeds, James, as you say, you would just skip past and go, Photoshop. And that's
what he does to help him with that is he does show a lot of behind the scenes stuff as how the shot was done, so that helps. So sadly has to post it almost, I would guess, semi-deliberately at the same time, just to prove his work is real, actually. So that is a bit of a shame, but he's certainly admirable. He does it with all sorts of other things as well. He has sort of paint powder and stuff like that, that he throws at people. It's very cool.
I'm impressed by the fact that he said he's been doing it for 10 years and to date he has had no burns on either, and he's not damaged any of his equipment either. So however, and I mean the people that are also participating in it, his models have got fire involved too, so nothing is... I'd be curious. I've never actually watched the behind the scenes stuff. I just saw the initial thing, so to actually see how he's done that over a decade, and obviously superbly well done with safety and all the rest of it. So
and he's keeping it real. The key thing is he's just, I keep repeating it, but it's real, it's proper photography. So I
guess if you didn't do it this way, you wouldn't necessarily get the same look on the model's face,
exactly.
Compared to Photoshop. I mean, I did see one video. It was this young, she probably maybe 15, 16. I think she might have been I can't remember what it was, maybe softball, baseball player. There's some trophies around her and she had her kind of hands up, fingers spread. And then you just saw someone's hand going behind her hands and all of a sudden, there was flames coming out just like for a split, probably less than a second. And obviously in that moment, he got the shot. And I'm thinking, has she burnt her fingers? I guess not, because there's this special gel, I guess, that they obviously he's been doing it over 10 years, so he knows exactly
he knows what he's doing.
How it works.
He knows what he's doing. Yeah,
doesn't get the burns. So
it's well worth going and finding. Have a good look at it though, because it's cool.
And as we say, do not try this at home. But have a wee look at it for yourself. The final story we've got in our news section this month is all about the world's biggest camera, which has produced apparently its first ever photographs. Nick and James, who's had a look at this story?
Well, go on, Nick. You give us some numbers.
Give us some numbers. Well, I'll start off by telling you a little bit about it. This is the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile, which is the home to, as you said, Ruth, it's the home to the largest digital camera ever built, and it's just taken its first photographs. So this particular camera is around about the size of a car. I mean, what car? Let's just say the size of a car. And it basically captures 3,200 megapixel images. And the lens, which is more than 5 feet across, and it projects images onto 201 custom CCD sensors. So it's got 201 sensors, which then build up these amazing images of deep space. And if you as you'll say, we'll put the links in the show notes. I mean, you've got to look at these images, just absolutely amazing, these deep space images.
James was just saying earlier, he approves because space makes pretty images.
Yeah.
It does make pretty pictures. It does. And what I really like about it, again, they're real. These pictures are real. You could easily AI generate something in space, but actually we don't know what's out there. And I can look at that picture and my imagination runs wild about little green men and I don't know, massive fish to be caught in crystal clear rivers somewhere in a galaxy in this picture.
As you said, galaxies. I mean, this first image, the observatory has said that it encompasses only about 0.05% of the 20 billion galaxies that the camera is expected to capture. So it's actually going to be doing 10-year time lapse.
Wow.
Which is called the Legacy Survey of Space and Time.
Over 10 years, that doesn't... some of those stars will disappear. I'm right in that, aren't they? Or some of them.
Would you notice, though, James?
Yeah, I know. Well, I struggle to count past sort of triple digits, let alone into some of those numbers Nick was talking about there.
Quite glad Marcus isn't in on this one because he'd be going, no, that's not right. Only 2.6 billion galaxies per cubit, whatever. But do you know, Nick, how far... I mean, the image that I've seen obviously has been on a screen. Do you know how big the images actually come out? You know, how far people can look at the detail or anything like that? Has that been shown anywhere?
Not exactly, but there is actually an app called, I think it's called Sky Viewer, and it allows you to pan around and zoom into the image.
Wow.
And, so you'll see all this great detail. I did try and find, in the article it says Sky Viewer app, but I couldn't actually find an app on the Apple App Store called Sky Viewer. Mm. So I'm not 100% sure. There was one called Sky View. They had a free version and a paid version, but, it's one of these kind of like night sky ones.
Well, the key thing, Ruth, is once you finish going through the the back catalogue, watching for the third or fourth time of photography online, the YouTube channel, you've then got 20 billion galaxies to look through here as well, because you can individually pan around and look through them.
I'll take you up to the next month's episode as well. If we manage to find the Skyview app, we will stick it in the show notes. Nick said, as of now, we don't know where that is, but we'll have a wee look for you. But it is a fascinating story, and if you're into space, even if you're not, it's one of those things, it's capturing so much information, and it's mind-boggling what it's caught, and like Nick said, it's still only 0.0 whatever % of what it's expected to see, let alone what is actually out there. So,
and we don't know what's out there, Ruth.
It's a crystal clear river with fish you can actually catch, James. Somewhere. On a planet far, far away from where you are. But anyway, those stories, like I said, all in the show notes. Do feel free to check those out for yourself. We are going to move on to the quiz.
The Photography Online Podcast Quiz.
Yeah, welcome back to the Pop Quiz. That's the Photography Online podcast quiz, where I ask our two panellists, James and Nick, 5 photography-related questions, and of course you guys can play along as well at home, in the car, wherever you are. We will be revealing the answers at the end. I've been looking at my carefully crafted winners and losers chart, James and Nick, and obviously you both haven't been on doing the same number of quizzes. To date, James has won 2 of his 3 games, so not so bad. Nick has won 1 of 1, so I'm not sure how that works out there.
So I've won the vast majority, and Nick's kind of even Stevens.
Nick's won everything, basically, that he's ever participated in.
Nick's won 1 of 1. 1 of 1.
1 of 1.
Damn it, that backfired. I should listen more carefully.
Yes, how are we going to do this at the end of the year, say? We can't really...
No, we can certainly do a percentage game. So here's my chart, right? So at the end of the year, I'll send it to Marcus. I'll fax it over to him because he's still on the fax.
Have you got your nieces and nephews round to draw that chart?
Oh no, I did it all by myself. And we can figure out. We'll get some sort of equation going on.
Looks like
there.
one of Harry's tattoos, to be honest.
Have you seen his latest ones?
I have, yes. No, I can't comment.
3 in the last month. Anyway, right, let's move into the pop quiz. What have we got here? 5 rounds, like I said, each one worth a point for the correct or closest answer. In the event of a tie, you will both, very generously, receive the point. The winner gets absolutely nothing, and so, suitably incentivized, let's crack on.
Round 1. Multiple choice.
All right, guys, do you have a bit of paper ready? Because we had allegations of... Nick does. James certainly has a pencil that's been in and out of his mouth for the last half hour. There we go. All right, good. Okay.
But does he have an eraser?
Oh, is that a rubber on the top there, James?
Oh, for goodness sake, yeah. All right, I'm going to put that pencil back in my mouth and make lots of tapping
You dare.
noises.
You dare. Sent you that squishy, silent stress ball for a reason. All right, anyway, multiple choice. In this round, I'm going to ask a question which is quite difficult, in my opinion. So to help you out, there are 4 possible answers. All I need you to do is tell me which one you think is correct. Here is the question. The first digital SLR, deemed affordable, which is under £1,000, hit the shelves in 2003. Who is the manufacturer? Was it A, Canon, B, Nikon, C, Olympus, or D, Minolta? A, Canon, B, Nikon, C, Olympus, D, Minolta. I am being quite kind. I'm not making you guess a model or anything, just the manufacturer.
I'm trying to write really carefully and quietly now, otherwise I'll get accused of rustling.
It's all right. I'll edit out your scribbles. Just don't do it at the same time as you're talking.
I've also oiled my chair as well, just so you know.
I do appreciate that. James got something. Nick, have you got something down there?
I have, yes.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to our next round.
Round 2. Name the year.
Okay, in this round, the answer to the question is a year. The round goes to whoever gets the closest answer, but if either of you gives me the exact year, you will get a bonus point. Here is the question, quite a simple one. What year was Nikon founded?
I think we can say what year is Nick born on.
Well, it might be close, so I'm not entirely sure, Nick.
They could be, you're quite old, aren't you? So it could be quite similar.
Says James. What year was Nikon founded? I'll give you a clue. It was in the 1900s.
Yeah.
Does that?
Genius, thank you.
I'm feeling generous. Feeling generous. Both got something.
I don't actually know that.
That's quite all right. I'd be impressed if you did.
Got something.
Nick's got something down there as well. All right, well, let's move on.
Round 3. Artificial intelligence.
This is one I know you both love very much, where I asked ChatGPT to describe a photographic object, person, or practice without mentioning the name of the subject. All I need you to do is tell me, what did I ask it to talk about? So here we go. Pay attention.
A silent whisper in the hand, it moves like vapor, wiping away the unseen echoes of forgotten moments. Neither tool nor machine, it seems alive, cleansing the path for light to pierce through untouched. In its gentle sweep lies a hidden power, guarding the fragile veil between clarity and shadow.
Ooh, Nick's kind of got a maybe.
Well, it's weird because I kind of thought I had it straight away, but then the more it goes on, it's like, yeah.
Okay.
What is that utter nonsense?
This is ChatGPT. Don't blame me, mate.
That's just complete gibberish and nonsense.
Well, they might have been coerced to kind of do it slightly riddle style. So
Can we have a clue? Do we sell them?
Excuse me, clues are given at my discretion, and I already gave one out this quiz.
Oh, do we sell them? So you do have an idea, don't you?
Well, only from the first sentence. After that, it just went into total nonsense.
You both got something written down?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Round 4. Take a wild guess.
All right, well, as the name suggests, of this round, it requires an answer which could be almost anything, so you're unlikely to get it exact. Wild guess is required, please. As with round 2, the point will go to whoever gets it closest. If you do get it exact, you're 2 bonus points. I don't think anyone's ever got it exact, in fact, to get 2 bonus points on this, but it could be all to play for. So here is the question. How many prints did Ansel Adams make of his Moonrise Hernandez photo? It's a wild guess, James. Stop looking so outraged. Honestly.
That's
a wild guess.
Well, it's either going to be like 3 or...
I'm thinking a low number.
Is it he made or it's...
Yes, himself, in his lifetime.
Himself?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that helps a little bit.
So not digitally spewed out online or anything like that. You both got something?
Just, can I not have just a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
As he Googles.
Nick, have you got something? Yeah.
Well...
It doesn't. Don't show us your hands, James. We all know that there are things like Ray-Ban sunglasses that can do the job for you.
Like I would own those.
I don't know. I saw somebody else with a pair in Spain. Actually, it seems to be becoming a thing.
You've become obsessed, haven't you?
I'm now double checking everyone's sunglasses, and he did get some good videos, I have to say.
So I know roughly how many years he lived after he took that picture. So I don't know.
Blimey, even that's quite impressive.
Okay, right. Anyway.
Okay, Nick's got something as well.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay, it was a wild guess. Okay, it's on to our final round.
Round 5. Where in the world?
Okay, it's a geography question. As much as photography, the location will be a well-known hotspot typically for photography. Here is the question. The most photographed landmark in the world held a world record for over 4 decades before being trumped by another famous landmark. It has been captured countless times by millions of people. However, it's illegal to profit from any photographs taken of it after daylight hours. What is it? Genuine face rubbing going on. This is interesting. Nick's got something. No clues, James. No clues.
You can't profit if it's taken after daylight hours.
That's true.
I can't spell.
Genuine confusion going on the face of James there. Nick, you got something down?
It's only because Nick's got confusion, but his face is less expressive. It's all the Botox.
It's all the Botox. Yes. Okay. You both got something? Let's take that as a yes.
I don't know. Yes, I don't know.
Okay, well...
It's the daylight thing.
It's weird because I was so confident when I did this with Marcus, my only time. I think I might have got 4 out of 5, and this one's like...
Yeah, well, you thought
0,
you'd lost the last one, as I recall, and you did win it, and against Marcus, which is all the sweeter. All right, let's go through the answers then. Round 1, multiple choice. The first digital SLR deemed affordable hit the shelves in 2003. Who was the manufacturer? We had Canon, Nikon, Olympus, and Minolta. Sure James reckons he knows. So what do you reckon, James?
Canon.
Nick? I can't see that, but let's assume it says Canon. There, I see an A. Oh, A, sorry, yes, Canon. Okay. Do any of you want to go beyond that and give me a model?
I have no idea.
I think I got my first digital camera in around 2003, but it wasn't less than £100,000. It was the EOS 1D Mark II.
That's a posh
No, what they did is
one.
they released it. They released like a consumer one first. I'm pretty sure, but I can't 100% remember.
Okay, I mean, you're both correct. Canon, it was the 300D. 300D. So my first camera was the 400D, which is obviously the next one up from that. In America, known as the Digital Rebel, or, I didn't know this, KISS Digital, 6.3 megapixel.
Just changed the name.
Yeah,
same camera, same different names, yeah.
Notable for being the first DSLR priced under $1,000/pounds. Key features included that 6.3 MP APS-C sensor, 7-point autofocus, and compatibility with all EF lenses and speedlights. So there we go. That was the first affordable digital camera. Round 2, the question, what year was Nikon founded? What did we have, chaps? You're both looking a bit... Nick's laughing, right? Go for it, Nick. What do you reckon?
1956.
1956.
Nikon, what?
Okay. James, obviously, this is... yeah.
So
okay.
a lot of those famous Nikon pictures must have... I don't know how... I don't know. I guess 1915, but I've now realised I've laughed outrageously and I don't actually know. So this could be deeply humiliating.
It's
but I'm pretty sure it's not in the 50s.
No, 1917. James, 2 years off.
Oh, okay.
Actually, quite impressed.
Oh, that's all right. Do I get a bonus point
You
then?
do not. That's closest. It wasn't bang on, but well done. You got a single point.
Sorry, Nick, for giggling.
At least you apologise. Marcus laughs uproariously and then is usually wrong, and it's even more pleasing.
I just would love to think those great photographers that you...
I don't know. I thought, they used Leicas back then.
Yeah,
That's
everyone
true.
used Leica until 2003 when the EOS came out. Anyway, round 3, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, endeavouring to describe a photographic sampling that I told it to. What do we reckon the answer was?
So before we answer this, do we sell this item?
Excuse me, you're trying to do exactly the same thing that James
No,
did.
I've got the answer. I'm just wondering what the answer to that question is, see whether I'm right or not.
No, show me your answers and then I'll tell you the answer.
Well, I read cloth.
Yeah, lens
I did
cloth.
right.
Okay,
cloth.
you're both correct. It was a lens cloth.
All right.
So what gave it away, chaps?
So what was the rest of it? I mean, it was complete rubbish.
It was the very start, wasn't it, James?
Yeah.
About wiping away something, but then it goes on to vapor and shadow and light and nonsense.
I know, yeah.
Well, I suppose if you had a giant bit of dust on your lens, it'd be all shadow and it lets the light come through. So,
Well, see, I was also thinking maybe sensor cleaning kit.
That could have used that one for another one, but it was a lens cloth, so well done, you both got that point. Round 4, how many prints did Ansel Adams make of his Moonrise Hernandez photograph? James looking horrified at the fact he might have to answer.
Well, I have absolutely no clue, so I just wrote down, generally, I wrote 500. I don't know. I've no idea.
Okay.
You can keep 2 zeros away from that. I put 5.
Did you? Well, I reckon you might be right, to be honest. So I think you have every right to laugh at me here. I don't know.
All right, someone needs to laugh. It was over 1,300.
Oh, excellent.
So James got that point. It was closest to, so James got that one. Well, there isn't actually an exact figure, so I'm glad you didn't both go over 1,300.
Well, that's unlucky, Nick, because
James has won then.
Well, you might get bonus points. You may not get bonus points. Let's just do the last one for kicks anyway. Where in the world, what do we reckon I was describing, which location, popular hotspot for photography?
I think, so I go first, Nick. I don't know. Yeah, okay. I reckon it's the night business. It's something that clearly photographs well at night, and it's something that clearly is in a place where there'll be lots of regulations. And I think I've heard something about the Eiffel Tower being, you can't profit from it, and I've heard stories about photographers being accused of taking pictures of it at night and being pros or whatever, but I have no idea.
I think James is right. I think I've heard that as well. I picked the Empire State Building.
Well, due to your honesty, James has a clean sweep. James was right. That was the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, I thought you just said it was the Empire State Building.
No. Nick being honest and saying he agrees with you, but he'd put down the Empire State Building. So no, it was the Eiffel Tower, tallest landmark for over 40 years until the Empire State Building was built in 1931. So not far off, Nick. The lighting on the tower is officially classified as a work of art, and due to European copyright law, it remains under the domain of the late Pierre Bidot, who was the engineer who designed the current system installed in 1985. So there you go. I think there was a bit of back and forth.
Oh, so was it only since 1985?
Apparently
then?
So. Unless there was lights before that.
Because most Parisians wanted it taken down, and there were all sorts of people, eminent Parisians that sort of refused to go to restaurants after it was put up because there was a view of it.
Okay.
So, but I have heard stories about photographers being quite heavily harassed around there. Are you taking this picture? Because clearly you can take a picture for fun, but
can't sell it or something.
I don't know.
That apparently is the case. So there you go. Who knew that engineers and lighting systems could copyright their lights and put on something posh? But anyway, that is the case. 5-2. James won the quiz. Let me just update my big spreadsheet here. July.
It's a bit of a hollow victory when
James.
I was over, I guessed 500 and whatever the answer was, 1,500 or something for Ansel Adams prints. It's a bit hollow.
It's still with a 140.
But I'll take it.
Yeah, no, Ansel Adams, apparently he made over 1,300. So he produced a new copy when one was ordered, and when the fame of the photograph grew, it was after 1948, prints sold at auction for £71,500 in the 70s.
Why didn't he print more?
Well, I don't know, but the same print sold for £609,000 in 2006, and then £930,000 for a mural-sized version of the same thing just a couple of years ago. So I guess it was a lot of work to print the same thing over and over again. I'm not sure we had the photocopying kind of technology back then for prints and stuff like that. But anyway, that's what the case was. 5-2. Congratulations, James, and commiserations, Nick. But
what if I won?
You've won my unending appreciation for, I don't know. You've won nothing, James, and so you can come back and prove yourself again next time. Anyway, if you manage to score higher than James, which is fairly impossible, unless you got it bang on, maybe you got the bonus points, do let us know.
Well, I think also if people were nearer that 1,500 mark for Ansel Adams,
we would give you an extra point for that. You can get in touch with us, podcast at mc2photography.com, or leave a comment. And of course, if you'd like to submit any questions, always appreciate it. Please do send them in to me as well. I hope you enjoyed playing along at home. I will be back with a brand new set of questions and a brand new set of panellists potentially next month.
The Photography Online podcast in partnership with King Joy Tripods.
Yeah, we are excited as ever to have Kingjoy helping us make this year's podcast possible. We've talked about it before, Kingjoy products. We've all been using them for a very long time. We're really happy to have them supporting the podcast this year. We wanted to mention this month the C86 XT. Now, you might have heard of the C86. I hadn't heard of the XT, but it's the tallest tripod they make, which isn't special order. It goes to 2 meters high, which is well above eye level for most people, maybe not James and Nick, who are rather taller than many. It can be really useful though when you're working on a steep slope, for example. I know James and Nick have got super tall tripods themselves. In fact, on this month's Photography Online show, I haven't seen this particular part of it, but I just remember looking at the thumbnail going, that is a very, very tall tripod. Nick, you've obviously been talking about the advantages of tall tripods. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we're talking about tripods in general, of course. Yeah, I have the C86 myself, so I have the slightly shorter.
And that's still up to, is it 180, I think, that goes to?
Yeah, so it goes above, I'm not that tall, Ruth. It goes above me.
Okay. Above your head.
Yeah, so one of the things in the tripod feature, Marcus does have a tripod called the Goliath, which was actually made for himself by Kingjoy. But I don't know how tall that went. But what he did for this feature in Photography Online, he actually joined 2 tripods together. I'm not sure which models they were. It might have been a C86. No, I don't think it was a C86. I think it was an older version he had. So I think that one had 3 sections to it. And then he joined either 1 or 2 sections from another tripod because they were the same thread size to get an extra tall. I mean, this was, I don't even know what it was, probably 2.5 meters, maybe 3 meters tall.
And so, I mean, I've been on many trips where I have my tripod set up to my eye level, and then I'll be standing next to Marcus, who's got to set up to his eye level, which is substantially higher than mine. And I look at his camera and I go, it's just not fair. You're taller, you've got a different angle, and you've obviously got a better vantage there. But I mean, what is the advantages of having the taller tripods, Nick?
You'll have to watch this month's Photography Online.
All right, there is. Well, if you want to have
a... actually requires a step ladder to get up to it as well. Marcus has to use a step ladder to get up to it. But health and safety, I was holding the step ladder. Yeah, I mean, obviously, looking over walls, if your subject was on the other side of a wall, that you couldn't climb over yourself, on the slope of a hill. So we talk about these things in the feature. If you're on the slope of a hillside where you've got 1 or 2 sections on the downslope, then 1 or 2 will be on the flatter section. So, it gives you that extra height.
Okay, well, I mean, check those out for yourself. That's a C86 XT. You can check out what else is available as well in the Kingjoy professional lineup on the Photography Online shop if you're here in the UK, or if you're listening internationally, kingjoy.com for international sales, or to find out your nearest dealer. I was just chatting to the guys before we started, just mentioning again about tripods out in Spain. We were shooting quite a lot on beaches, and sand is one of those things that you try your best not to get in, but occasionally gets into the joints, gets all crunchy, and just it's not a nice feeling when you go to put a leg in and you just hear that kind of crunching noise. Is there this is just slightly off topic, but is there an easy enough way to clean these out, or just a case of taking them all apart and blasting them with, I don't know, fresh water or strong air, James?
Personally, I don't, because when I clean them, yes, with air, well, I don't really use air, but yes, I clean them with sweet water, so fresh water. Yeah, no, absolutely, Evian.
Only Evian.
Yeah, only Evian. And Marcus uses his soda stream, of course, because he's obsessed by his sparkling water.
And I use Highland Spring.
And you use Highland Spring, yes, very good. So it's quite important to do that, just to get the salt and the majority of any sand off. But personally, I don't take the joints apart because I'm hopeless at things like that, really. So, and when I have taken the joints across, that tripod's then been rendered useless until Nick comes to visit and puts it back together again for me.
You got a selection of random legs just kicking around.
Yeah, I've got a selection of, there's legs everywhere. Yeah, it's like a serial killer's understairs cupboard down there.
So you do kind of have to be a little bit careful when taking them apart, because there's a little bit, I don't know what the technical name, I call them shims, little black, white plastic things which go over the top of the inside of the leg section, which they're actually used to stop the leg section from freely rotating. So they've got on the inside of the section that this leg goes into, there's a little lip either side, so then there's slots that goes into, and it stops it from rotating freely. As far as I know, that's its only job. But I do know someone who they took it apart, and actually these shims just disintegrated.
Oh, wow.
So unless you want to do a deep clean, just take it for a shower. Give it a hose
Yeah,
down
take
in
it
the
in with
shower.
you. Yeah. Have a friend. Yeah, just be careful of the spiked feet.
All right, well, again, kingjoy.com if you want more information on that. Let's move on.
Listeners from an unlikely location.
Yeah, we like to say hello to listeners from unexpected parts of the world. We do have one person listening this month, or last month I should say, in June, in Uruguay. Now, I did fail to check how to pronounce this, but bienvenida sounds about right. If anyone is from
Sounds
Uruguay
plausible.
listening.
You've just been in Spain.
Uruguay is not Spain. Oh, they speak Spanish. Oh, it's Spanish. I thought it looked familiar. Oh, my brain's been
Wow.
mushed since I got back. Anyway, you're very welcome, whoever you are, listening in Uruguay. We've also discovered that some of the platforms that we broadcast on have got city-by-city breakdowns. And London, hello, is top city last month in June, closely followed by Sydney. I was going to say G'day, but I don't know if that is, cultural
To all the
appropriation
Sheilas.
or something. And the guys, what do they call guys? You can let
I
us
don't
know if
actually
you're
know.
listening.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Cheats at cricket, I think, is the technical term.
I did not hear that, and I'm not sure I want to. But anyway, wherever you're listening from, always so good to have you. Do get in touch, tell us about yourself. We're always interested where you are, what you're doing, and podcast at mc2photography.com is the email address. You can leave a comment, of course, as well. And thank you for the comments on last month's podcast. Dave Collins got in touch. We were talking about the motorcycle racing that was going on and the photographers that were getting in trouble for photographing it. He says, "You've got me really worried. At the beginning of June, many roads around where I live in the Scottish borders were shut to allow for the Women's Tour of Britain cycle race. So, not having far to go, and despite the rain, I found a spot on the side of our country lane to photograph the race as they went past. I am now waiting for my ASBO, or whatever it's now called, to arrive in the post because clearly I must have been responsible for all the disruption the race caused. By the way, I proved yet again I'm not a sports photographer. Dave, let us know if you got your ASBO because I want to know as well. Be intrigued." A few comments regarding photography online, the main YouTube show last month. In fact, pretty much all around the feature that Marcus did on photographing interiors, commercially, hotels, B&Bs, things like that. E.B. Sloan said, "Great episode. Loved the interior photo capture and editing segment. Once upon a time, I was senior editor of a regional magazine that profiled the grand homes of Southern California. Back in those days, it took a day or more of setting up interior lighting to accomplish much of what you did with modern shooting and editing techniques, informed, no doubt, by lots of planning and prep." JK Photography said, "I think the beam from the overhead bed light fixture is unnecessary, also looks fake." And Ian Evans said, "Very educational on interior photography and the inverse square law. Love the challenge. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time and effort in producing the programme." We did get a lot of comments about the hotel shooting interiors. James, I know you shoot a lot of interiors as well. It's one of those things that it's niche in a way, but in another way, as Marcus said, if you've got any kind of Airbnbs around you or self-catering properties,
It was a good feature he did. Of course, I taught him everything he knew about shooting interiors.
Yeah.
But no, just keep it. The general rule is keep it simple. And some of the key things that he said in that video, the simple stuff, that's people overcomplicate it. It just really doesn't need to be. And the comment about back in the day when you'd have to shoot interiors before, it's not necessarily before digital, but before maybe such dynamic range here and there, or, being able to manipulate things in Lightroom a little bit more. When you would have to Lightrooms, then it was extremely complex back in those days, but it is a lot simpler now.
And back in the day, I mean, Marcus for a long time has been using these LED light panels, putting them in baths, things like that. And I remember the very first time I went on a shoot with him, must have been about 7 or 8 years ago, and he took it out, he put it in the bath, and I remember thinking, this is going to look hideous. What are you doing? It's going to be this big, bright hotspot that looks really unnatural. But it works really, really well, and it's simple little tips.
And just turn it. Did he turn it to blue as well? Just a little blue on there?
I don't think so. I think it was just it was kind of a low glow. It was just...
Amateur. What an amateur.
You work in probably buildings with more fluorescent lighting going on. Maybe it wouldn't have looked so random.
No, it's just to give the bath just a hint of blue to separate it, the light that's in the bath from the rest of the room. That's why you do it. And water's blue, clearly, so that's why you do it. Little things.
See, this is something we will be talking about on our Photography Online live show, which is for our official supporters. We didn't do one last month, but we are having a bumper episode in July, so we're going to be catching up on all the features that we have been doing the last couple of months, including that. James, you can bring your blue LED, and I don't think you've got a bath that we can have a look at it in, but we could figure it out. So that's...
There's a bath there if you want. Do you want me to do the show from the bath?
Oh, we could do a live. There's an idea. Yeah, we could do that. We just get your roaming camera and your blue panel and we're good to go.
Yeah, no, I've got my little rubber ducks. They're all lined up.
Oh, excellent. That's all from... Are these from Venice by any chance?
One of them is, yeah, you bought me one once as well. I think you bought
I?
me one in Ireland, actually. I think, yeah.
I do not recall that, and I'm willing to fight you on it. But anyway, always appreciate the feedback. Do keep it coming. We're going to move into our gear section.
It may be new. It may even be exciting. But does the world really need it?
Right, Nicholas. Talking about does the world really need it? This is one I came across and immediately thought the world does not need this. This is, I don't even know how to pronounce the name of it, but it's basically a tripod mountable camera bag. And we're not just talking a hook on a tripod here. Tell us all about this item.
Do we really need to talk about it? Because I don't think the world really needs it.
It's that simple. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt. We'll explain what it is first of all.
It's called the RuXpod, RuXpod, which stands for Rucksack times tripod or Rucksack X tripod. Okay, so it's the tripod mountable camera bag. Why would you want to attach your tripod? I can't even say it. Why would you want to attach your camera bag to the tripod?
Because, Nick, it keeps it clean. And
well, exactly.
Other people believe that it adds stability. Does it add stability, Nick?
I don't know. But anyway, according to the product's website, as James just said, one of the most frustrating aspects of outdoor photography has nothing to do with the photography itself. It's having to lay your expensive gear down in the dirt after setting up your tripod, so hence your camera bag can get dirty. Now, as an outdoor photographer myself, my bag is constantly being put on the ground and it may get a little bit dirty, but is that one of the frustrating?
One of the first things this thing it saves you bending over. I thought, oh wow, that's
yes.
life changing.
I'm back in.
Perhaps for some, yeah.
I mean, if my bag gets that dirty, I just when I get home, I'll wipe it down with a wet cloth. But
surely if you're hanging this on your tripod and you open the back, the way most bags are designed, everything's going to fall out.
This opens, I believe it was from I can't remember now, the web.
No, it does open from the side and the top. I've got a lovely little diagram in front of me. Yeah.
So my biggest issue with this is actually being able to use your camera when this is on the tripod. So imagine let's say you've got two tripod legs at the front, so facing you instead of one. So you've got one away from you. So the camera bag, I'm using my hands here, but no one can see this because we're on audio only. But you've got it attached to the two legs that are facing you. So you've got this big bag in front of that. So when you're then trying to look in the viewfinder, you're obscured by this bag in front of you.
You could probably turn the tripod round, to be fair.
Well, yeah, but I think it's still going to get in the way. So if you've now got one leg in the front, so it's now kind of like side on, but I still think it's still going to cause issues with just trying to look through your viewfinder. The picture they've got is of like a medium form or a large format camera like Marcus has, one of his large format cameras, where you've got the ground glass, so you've got to get right up to it to focus.
So there's two or three things that I would sort of add to that, Ruth, is that hanging bags on tripods, which I slightly alluded to a minute ago, is never a good idea anyway, especially not if you're trying to do anything that involves a slower shutter speed, because the wind's going to catch it, you're going to knock it. It's just basically, tripods need to be what they are, really, as little on top as possible. So 3 legs and that's it. So don't hang your tripod. It will not add stability. It will not help. Weighting, any of that nonsense doesn't help. As Nick mentioned, their selling point is that you can reach into it. And the only advantage I can see to that is maybe if you are using a 5.4, I don't know, you could hang it on the tripod and reach in for bits and bobs, your loop to focus. But it also, as Nick says, gets in the way. So I love innovative sort of products. And I think, it's quite new, isn't it, Nick? I think, is that right?
It is. Don't think we've actually got any production ones yet. It might just be some sort of like a Kickstarter.
Yeah, so it's great. I love innovation and I love to see people do it. So, I'd almost encourage people to go and get one just to support a company that's being innovative. But I don't think it quite does the job it's designed to do.
In my opinion, they're trying to create a solution for, in my opinion, a problem that doesn't actually exist. I've never had a customer or whatever say, oh, my bag's getting dirty or whatever.
Yeah. Do you know what I do? I carry a bin bag. I put the bag on that, or I sit on it, or I kneel on it, or I sort of roll uncomfortably while I'm trying to get back up off my bin bag.
Yeah, it's one of those things where even without delving too much into the detail, you think, no, I don't think the world particularly needs that. This was suggested by email by Peter McDonald. Peter, so thank you for sending that in. A conclusion, guys, a massive resounding no, or do we want to give it the benefit of the doubt?
Yes to the innovation, no to the product.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give them that.
Very, very fair and balanced. All right, well, sticking on the tripod theme, Manfrotto have come out with what they're describing as a kind of basically the ultimate tripod, which does everything you could possibly want it to do. James, tell us about it.
Well, it's called, just to be precise, the Manfrotto 1, and it's a hybrid tripod. So I initially thought that you'd plug it in at home and then it would get you about 20 miles down the road, and then you'd have to plug it in again or switch to a normal combustion engine. No, apparently it's a set of legs. It's a kind of suite of stuff, really. So there's a couple of different sets of legs that come with it, and then a couple of different heads, and you pair it all up to what you want, which immediately means that actually it's not hybrid at all. It's actually several different things. So there's a fluid head or ball head, but the legs, I think, drop down with a click of a button. They sort of automatically fall down. You can take the center column, you can mount it horizontally. You can then, as I said, switch from a fluid head to but that means buying, another form of head, but it actually means buying two different heads anyway. So there is absolutely nothing any different about this tripod to any other tripod Manfrotto have ever made, except it's called something new. It may well have slightly different mechanisms on the legs. Great, marvellous, brilliant. The ones seem to work that we already have. In the video that accompanies it, there's quite a funny line where it actually says something along the lines of, I've actually had to anchor this tripod's great in any occasion. I can get it at any angle, because they've done a very expensive, fancy video to promote it. So, and the guy who's in the video says, I can get this tripod at any angle, but it's not at its most stable here. So I've had to hold it. And you're like, we had to anchor it down. You're like, what? What do you mean it's not its most stable? And he's also using it totally incorrectly in most of the video, because he's outside using it in dirt scenarios. Just put some spikes on a regular tripod and stick with what you've got, and you'd have been fine, mate. But he probably got paid for it, so, if I'd been paid, I'd have done it.
Didn't we have a tripod a few months back that also claimed to be, self-leveling, so all the legs kind of came out at once and did what it was meant to do? Is this the same thing that Manfrotto were claiming to have, or is it just all legs drop at once?
Well, it's just it's got a self-leveling head, but then you've got to have that on a fluid head on this one, or you've got to then put the bowl on. I mean, we have self-leveling heads on some of the Kingdroid tripods. It's not, that's not new. That is not a new thing, and it's only self-leveling to a few degrees anyway. But it is nonetheless quite useful. But this is not. It says this is one tripod. It's it's a hybrid model that does everything. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't do anything new at all, unless I'm mistaken, Nick, and you've seen something it does.
No, I mean, I've looked on the website myself, and I've got a thing from the website. It says the patented exchange mount system allows you to attach and detach heads or accessories intuitively and without tools. Well, I don't need any tools to remove my head. I just have to use my hand and unscrew it and then replace it with another head.
Maybe they've invented the screw and patented it. It's just a load of utter nonsense, to be honest.
I mean, I guess it is. It's probably a quick system. They might just have like a push of a button, then it comes off, and then you know.
Which would scare the life out of me, by the way.
Yeah, because it wouldn't feel secure.
It wouldn't feel secure.
No.
So, Manfrotto do make, some good products. They make some okay products. And this may well be okay. And I've never seen one, and it may well be totally, totally fine. There's no question. But what it is not is something that's new. And that's the way they're marketing it. But everybody markets everything is new, don't they? So, fair play to them. They've got to shift their gear somehow.
Well, talking about new and old at the same time, this is a really interesting one. Normally, if Marcus was on the show, he'd be the one launching straight on into this. James, though, also, not like you're our second choice or anything, James, but this is quite an exciting release. You have got.
I was using film long before Marcus even picked up he was still fiddling about doing that radio nonsense that you used to do. When
you were in the dark room honing your craft. Tell us about this next item, because it is quite exciting, I think.
Well, yeah, it is. So it's a new film from Leica called the Monopan 50, which is a 50-speed film, and it's kind of been brought out to celebrate their 100-year anniversary. So 1925 was the last time that they produced a film.
I didn't realise they'd actually ever produced one. Is that correct? I thought this was their first.
Well, technically they didn't. Actually, they used other people. They branded it their own,
Okay.
to be technically correct. But once again, with this, I'm not going to go into the details about its depth and what it can do in terms of its recording, different ranges of colour. But it's a monopan, so it's black and white film. It's 50 rated. But the key thing for me, yet again, is it's about, do you call this innovation? They've kind of reinvented the wheel, but fair enough. So anyone that's encouraging photographers to get out and actually take pictures is what I'm interested in with this film. You can go and research and you can find out all about what it will do. And, it's a black and white film. It's rated at 50. It will do what you think it will do. But actually, it's more than that. It's celebrating photography, what photography itself is. It's a bit like the chap that was photographing fire. It's actually getting away from, using digital manipulation to solve all your problems all the time. And that's really what photography is about. So I completely applaud Leica for investing in this. They've clearly invested in it for a reason, which is to make money, which is totally fair enough, but great. And the best thing of all about it is the canister looks fantastic. It's got that little red dot on it.
It looks
with
retro.
Leica written on it. It looks very retro and very cool.
For decades, Leica photographers have been using, film photographers, whatever film they can get, and obviously not Leica. I can see, we'd run various trips with Leica groups, and I can imagine come October that anybody with a Leica film camera will only be shooting with Leica film now, because it's a Leica branded thing, and so you're going to do that.
The interesting thing, though, without sort of going on about how wonderful Leica is, because I don't really have a particular view on that. I like the simplicity of a lot of Leica product over the years, but the interesting thing is they put some sample pictures on there, and the sample pictures, I have to say, are utterly appalling, and they don't do the film any justice whatsoever.
I was going to ask, does that have a particular look?
Well, it's very flat, and it will be flat because it's rated at 50 anyway, but I don't know. So they've either photographed things that are incredibly flat for their sample images, or things that have, in theory, got very high contrast. And actually, the pictures are all utter, they've got sort of streety theme to them, but they're weird. They're terrible.
There is some debate on whether Leica, like you mentioned before, 1925, have just rebranded another roll of film, or if they've actually done it from scratch. I don't know if there's any updates on that yet, but
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I was reading that. You sent me the article, so I was reading it, but there is no update on that. But what fascinates me is why these particular pictures were chosen to demonstrate as sample pictures. But it's worth, having a visit and having a scroll through and seeing the direction that Leica clearly think, and the sort of subjects that Leica think their potential purchasers of this film would want to photograph. It's a very strange thing.
And do you have an idea on price? Is there a price anywhere that you've noticed?
Yeah, there was. I've now lost it because I've scrolled away looking at boring pictures
I've
of
now
downtown
found it.
somewhere in America. Is it $7.99? Did I remember that correctly?
No, $14.99.
$14.99.
That's for, I think, is it 36? I imagine. Let me just double check. 36 exposure is $14.99. Yeah, so more expensive than some films we've seen coming out recently. But obviously, it's the Leica brand, and it does look cool, doesn't it? Although it's going to be hidden inside your camera.
Yes, it does look very cool. Yeah.
But if you say 50, if it had been like a 400 or 800, I would have thought, yeah, I'll give that a shot. But 50, like me. Leica black and white to me is about the kind of the contrast and the grittiness. So a 50 doesn't appeal.
The 50, I wouldn't worry about that. I would just give it a try. The 50 ISO really doesn't mean anything. You're losing one stop from standard 100 ISO, so that makes no big deal. I think it's one of those things that it's going to be. We'll put it in the hands of the great gorilla ape Marcus one day and see what he thinks of it, or maybe we'll run it through that Nikon that's on the shelf behind me. We'll never know.
Yeah, none of us are going to have an actual Leica to put it through. It's going to be the only Leica item that we can afford, possibly.
I do, yeah. That's true. But until it's been shot and looked at, and shot with suitable subject matter as well for it, then. But once again, good on these manufacturers, like the bag people hanging bags on tripods or setting fire to things. That's what photography is all about, really. So good on them.
Setting fire to things. Take that with a pinch of salt. Nick, finishing off our gear section, we're sticking with kind of the old school theme, but it's a new item. What is this last item of gear we've got?
Yeah, so maybe it's an item we can actually run this film through. It's the Rito Pano 35mm film camera. So maybe we can buy this camera because it's only £35. and run a roll of the Monopan 50 film through it. So what's unique about this? Well, it's not, I don't suppose it's necessarily unique, but it's a camera, 35mm camera, which allows you to switch between taking regular 35mm and panoramic photographs mid-roll. So I guess there's like a switch on it that you can just, regular panel, regular, whatever. But for me, I just don't see them. I mean, I think they should be under what's the point, our old feature, what's the point? Because, what is the point of this? So it takes 35mm film. So when you're taking the regular shot, it measures 35mm by 24mm. Then when you go into panel mode, the image, the negative size will be 35mm by 14.9. So all they're doing is like putting a mask top and bottom.
Oh, it's not doubling it, it's just making it smaller?
No, it's just the same single frame. So
half the quality.
Yeah, you just, why not just allow the photographer to frame it up maybe as a panel image just by putting a mask through the viewfinder, but giving them the full frame afterwards, and then they can decide if they want to, cut it down afterwards, if they should scanning it in digitally. So
how does this work, Nick? When you look through the viewfinder, you see the normal 35mm composition, and then does it show you what you see a panel?
Yeah, from what I've seen, there isn't really, I haven't seen that information, just as easy switch between panoramic and standard ratio. I can't see the information as to what it shows.
I think for 35 quid, you can't really go wrong. So, if you were to buy it, and it's almost like a disposable camera, and I don't mean that 35 quid's worth nothing. I just mean, it's like a disposable camera you can use a few times, because of course it's not 35 quid, you actually got to buy film to put in it, so that bumps it up. So for, I think, is it 70 quid, roughly 70 quid or something, you get 5 rolls of film with it, but clearly you've got to process those as well. So it's a kind of halfway between an old-fashioned disposable film camera. I don't know, it's a bit of fun, I suppose. The pano mode's a total waste of time, as Nick's just described. It doesn't mean anything at all.
Yeah, you can actually buy it from the Retto website for £27, but I don't know what postage would be. I'm looking at the photographs here on the website, and I can't really see. It doesn't actually,
well, they're better than the pictures that are on the Leica website, I can tell you that. So
it doesn't really give you the information what I can see of how it, what it does with it. Yeah, whether it shows you through the viewfinder, the cropped down version or not.
It's a bit of fun.
It's a bit of fun. And like say 35 or 27 quid. And if you put a roll of Leica in with it as well, then,
Yeah. And go and buy yourself some of those little red dot spot things, and you can put one of those on the front of it and pretend it is a Leica.
I've got to send you some of them down, James. I've got some little red stickers here I keep meaning to send down.
Yes, please.
Stick them on all your gear items. Anyway, you can have a wee Google on that for yourself if you want to find out just exactly how the panel mode works. That's the Retto Pano 35mm camera. Show notes has got all the links to the gear items we've been talking about this month, and of course the news stories as well. So do have a wee look for that. That's about it for our podcast, I think, for this month. Just to let you know what's coming up on Photography Online in July's show on YouTube, carrying on with the Great British Icons Photo Challenge. The guys are in Blackpool. They're on the beach, but spoiler, it's not fantastically summery looking.
No Speedos.
No Speedos in sight, thank goodness. What to look for when choosing your ideal tripod. I know we've had a few tripod items today. Really, really good features, Nick alluded to. A lot of fun as well, so do check that out. Anyone needs a new tripod or just starting out, good information on there. And then Analog Affairs, Marcus is talking about the best way to scan medium and large format film at home. So I think flatbed scanners. So also dead useful if you're into doing that stuff. So there we go. That's what is coming up. Thank you, Nicholas and James, for joining me this month. And we will be back next time. But until then, take good care. But most of all, take good photos.
You've been listening to the Photography Online podcast in partnership with Kingjoy Tripods.